3 mistakes you must not make when using phrasal verbs. I imagine you want to use phrasal verbs in conversations in English, so you have to stop making these 3 mistakes. I will talk about them and describe them so you understand what you need to do the next time you need to use a phrasal verb in a conversation, anywhere, anytime. If you don't know me very well, hi, how's it hanging? I'm teacher Prix, and I'm going to help you talk to anyone, anywhere, anytime in English. Make sure to subscribe to the channel. You are invited because there's always a new lesson around here to help you on your journey to fluency. So I know, guys, you want to sound cool and advanced in the conversation and using phrasal verbs, that native speakers use will definitely make you sound more fluent. You need to boost your vocabulary. So I understand phrasal verbs are necessary. However, there's a catch. If you make the mistakes that I'm going to show you in this lesson, you will have the completely opposite vibe. Yeah, instead of sounding fluent and confident, you will sound the opposite. Basic, not confident, and that you don't have mastery of the language as you think you do. So let's change that today. So stay with me until I tell you the 3 mistakes. They're connected. So here we go. Mistake number 1. Separating phrasal verbs when you shouldn't. This is grammar. Not going to get into details, but I have an example to make that clear. I gave my previous job up because I wanted to try a new career out. Now, maybe you're in a job interview and you say this, well, I gave my previous job up because I wanted to try new things out. While you may think you're sounding advanced, you're making this mistake when using phrasal verbs in spoken language. You're separating the phrasal verb. What is a phrasal verb? It's a verb plus 1 or 2 or 3 more particles, more words. In most cases, prepositions, we call them particles. And we have the 2 scenarios. We have phrasal verbs that we can separate and phrasal verbs we cannot. And some phrasal verbs that can be both, okay? Now, this example that I showed you does not sound as advanced as you think. In addition to this mistake number 1, separating when you shouldn't, there's another mistake that I will talk about in number 3. Okay, but let's focus on mistake number 1. But stay with me until mistake number 3 because there's another one problem in this very polished phrase about your previous job. Okay? Now, as I mentioned before, we have phrasal verbs that can be used separately and some of them are not, okay? So we call them separable and inseparable phrasal verbs. And when using a phrasal verb in conversations, I need to pay attention to that. Now pay attention to what I wrote here on the screen. If a phrasal verb is separable, I can place an object between the verb and the particles. So I put something in the middle, the object, my job. I gave my job up. That's possible. Okay, try out, same thing. I tried a new job out. That's possible with separable phrasal verbs. Oh, Priscilla, how do I learn them? Time after time. I will talk about this in mistake number 2, but it's time, guys. I can't lie to you just so that you stay here with me and hit the like button. I have to be honest, it takes a little bit of time and practice, but the right kind of practice, okay? Now, there's a catch here. There is an observation you need to understand. While give up is a separable phrasal verb, in the example I shared, it's not a good idea. Just because you can doesn't mean you should. That's a very important point if you want to sound more advanced and fluent when using phrasal verbs. So just because in the book it says separable phrasal verb, in the dictionary, separable phrasal verb, doesn't mean you can do it. And why? Teacher, how do I do it? What do I do? You need to pay attention to something we call collocations. In a more informal way, what people do in real life. When I say people, I'm not talking about me, teacher. I mean native speakers. What the real people do in the real world when using English, okay? And here, guys, I gave up my job is much more common. It is a common collocation. Can you say I gave my job up? You don't need to. And you learn this by the right combination of skills when studying English so that you are better prepared for conversations, okay? So give up is more commonly used together, okay? Are there situations when you separate give up? Yes, and I have some lessons here on my channel about phrasal verbs. Check them out where I explain the technicality of separable and inseparable phrasal verbs. So here are some common collocations. Give up hope, give up smoking, give up drinking or any bad habit, give up alcohol, give up sleeping late, you know, like going through the night awake and texting friends and scrolling down your feed like crazy. That's a bad habit, by the way. Give up my career. Give up my career. Okay. Give up caffeine. So these are some collocations. There are more. Okay. So when studying phrasal verbs, don't stop at, oh, it's separable. Yay. Collocations. It's important to understand that just because you can separate that phrasal verb doesn't mean you should in some occasions. And I know some of you will come in the comments, yeah, but I learned in the book. Yes, there are rules. There are some situations when it is inevitable. You have to separate the phrasal verb from its particle. But the point I'm making here is, in many situations, you need to analyze the context and collocations. Moving on. Using the wrong particle. Oh man, do you remember this TV show, Friends? In this scene, Joey is trying to speak in French, okay? To speak French, excuse me. And he thinks he's killing it. You know, blah, 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 blah. My French is amazing, huh? Just like Joey. No, I'm just kidding. I speak zero French. What is the mistake here? You think you're doing a great job. Yeah, I'm killing it. But you're using the wrong particle, the wrong preposition, or the wrong combination of words that make a phrasal verb, which consequently could change the meaning of your phrase completely. So you would be sounding like Joey. And people would be like, sure, buddy. So be careful. And this is why, guys, I always say that quality always beats quantity. If you study too many phrasal verbs, too many, and with the wrong study process, with the wrong routine, with the wrong plan, you will confuse them a lot. It's not just about separable and inseparable anymore. This is problem number one. Problem number two is changing the phrasal verb because you have the wrong approach to learning phrasal verbs. So here in the example I wrote, I came out with a great plan to increase our sales. Let's say you're having a Zoom call, then you're there and you say, oh, go attention guys, attention. I came out with a great plan to increase our sales. Would people understand? Yes, but they would be, oh buddy, that's okay, sweetie. Because it's the wrong particle, it's not out, it's up. Come up with. Come up with means to think of an idea, to have a plan, to create something. And come out with is not connected to come up with at all. There may be other translations to come out, okay? Many other translations, but this is one. And it's not connected to come up with, which is to say something in a sudden, unexpected, rude, or reckless way. So it's not connected to the situation. So there you are thinking, I'm cool using come out with, when in reality, people will not have the same comprehension, the same cool, fluent vibe. So be careful, guys. Less is more when it comes to using phrasal verbs. Therefore, it is important, it's paramount to follow a good study plan. And what is a good study plan, guys? A good study plan doesn't focus on quantity, the number of phrasal verbs you have to learn per day, per week to be fluent, to make people feel that your English speaking skills are on point, you know? No, you need to have the right integration with vocabulary and speaking in real life, contextualized situations to help you expand your English vocabulary. This is what I teach in my study plan. I call it the 21-day study plan cycle to help you reboot, change the way you study so you can maximize your results on the journey to fluency. So make sure to check it out, link in the description. But other than that, just hit the like button, you know, that really helps, or share this video with a friend, because maybe right now there's someone who needs to watch this video, so I appreciate it, you know. Now, number 3, trying to sound cool with a complete phrasal verb. You know the phrasal verb, but in the wrong situation. My goodness. Dictionaries give you explanations, but the right way to study will give you contextualization. And this is more difficult to be done if you don't follow a plan, if you're not in a program. And here, guys, as you can see here on the screen, this is Elle Woods. She was part of the movie Legally Blonde, okay? And in this scene, she went to a party, you know, in her campus, and people told her that it was supposed to be a costume party. So she bought a pink bunny costume. However, when she got to the party, it turned out that it was a prank, only to her. It was not a costume party. So she stood out like a sore thumb. Everybody noticed her, and she felt really embarrassed because she was wearing a nice costume, but in the wrong place. That was the wrong situation. And this is the same vibe. This is the same situation when you pick a really nice phrasal verb. Yes, I'm gonna kill it. Yeah. But in the wrong place at the wrong time. Okay, so it's important to contextualize. And that takes me back to give up. Okay? Give up is not always what you think it is. Teacher Prix, tell me all about it. Look at this. Well, I gave my previous job up because I wanted to try a new career out. This sentence is bonkers, okay? People would understand, but this is ridiculous, even though I'm using 2 possible phrasal verbs. First, separating when I shouldn't. In this case, it's separable, but it's not a good idea to separate the phrasal verb and the particle. But here we have another thing to think about, which is situation. Give up is a wonderful phrasal verb, but should I use it? Is it appropriate to use that phrasal verb in that situation? That's what you need to analyze. And only by changing the way you study will you learn how to do that. It takes a little bit of time, okay? Now, in this scenario, if I'm talking about giving up my job, it would be much more common to say, quit. I quit my job. Beautiful. Huh? And try out, remove out, bye, just try. Okay, I wanted to try a new career path. It's too much, okay? In this sentence, you don't need a phrasal verb to sound fluent, to sound like a native speaker, because they wouldn't necessarily use those phrasal verbs, especially try out. Give up, maybe. There is a scenario here in which you could use give up. That leads me to contextualization. Priscilla, I cannot use give up my job. I saw it in movies. I saw it in a dictionary example. Of course you can. Take a chill pill, huh? But there's a catch again, okay? I gave up my job. Look at the screen. Look at the woman. She's sad. Spending my time. She's feeling a little depressed. She gave up her job. When you use give up your job, there is a different connotation, okay? It's involving some level of sacrifice. It might be that you wanted to abandon your job, stop doing it because of obstacles, because of challenges. Something was not working well for you that made you give up that job. So here's an example. I decided to give up my job because I was feeling underappreciated. There was also a lot of gossiping in the office. I couldn't take it anymore. So there is an emotional connection here. So give up is wonderful in this scenario. Now, if you want to be more objective, straightforward, like native speakers are, I quit my job. Okay? There is no emotional weight compared to give up. And again, this is what I need to analyze when using phrasal verbs in conversations, because I could come here and give you a list, 100 phrasal verbs that native speakers use. But what you need to understand is, okay, do they really use those phrasal verbs? Are there situations when I would be like Elle Woods, too much? In the wrong place at the wrong time? Because this happens to many English learners. They want to sound advanced, but they end up sounding the opposite. I don't want that for you. I hope you enjoyed this lesson. Share it with a friend. But other than that, I'll see you in the next one. Bye!